how to fix a dripping tap on these quarter turn type taps with ceramic valves. So annoying drip on this one. Just fixed it. I'm just going to show how I did it for zero cost, or if you want to change the whole valve for a very minimal cost of about £8. First challenge is how to get the top of the tap off. A lot of taps will have handles that unscrew, and quite commonly inside the hole of the handle you'll have a little hex grub screw that you undo with a hex key. These ones got me baffled to start with because there's no holes or caps or markings or anything to get to any sort of screw. On ones like this, you see it's got a little cap on it, and I'm pretty sure behind that will be the screw that needs removing. So there's the cap off. You can see how it fits with those blind inners fitting over this plastic top. Normally this would be a 17-inch nut. Preferably get a wrench with a long 17-inch socket on it that'll then fit over it firmly. Give it a good pull, quite stiff quite often. I've already undone this. It undoes anti-clockwise. You then take the valve out. You can just replace the whole thing. So this is called a ceramic valve insert. Look it up on eBay. Put a few links in the video description. But because I didn't want the water off for ages and I've got a spare to put in straight away, I'm going to show you how you can strip this down and clean it up, because quite often you just get some calcium or rust deposits inside which is upsetting the seal. Those can be scratched off, and it'll cost you nothing to rebuild it and put it back in, and within about half an hour you can turn the water back on. Which brings me to the point of make sure you turn the water off, of course, before you remove the valve. All you need to do is get to the tap on your cold water coming into your house, turn it off, and then turn on the cold tap until the pressure disappears. Then of course you won't have water gushing everywhere when you remove the valve. Now stripping down these valves is actually remarkably easy. First we'll unscrew the little Phillips screw at the end. Pull off the plastic. Then you've got this little spring clip here to remove, which you can just prise off like so. Now this piece of rubber at the end will just pop out. It is possible just to pull out that piece of copper washer. Probably it's a bit stiff, and the way to force it out is just push down on the shaft, push on the outer assembly, and the whole thing will then, or should, push out. Might need a few taps to keep everything in the same order and look at the orientation. So there is our copper washer with a silicone washer on the inside. Put that down in order. And this is the ceramic part that actually does the sealing and turns the tap on and off. And you've got a highly polished ceramic surface here, which seals against a similar surface here and should stop water going in between the two. So I've already cleaned this up and checked that it fixed the problem. Basically what you want to do is clean up the surface, scratch it off with a nail. If there's any heavy deposits, get a very flat blade without scratching the ceramics, something like this perhaps, and make sure every imperfection is taken off the ceramic surface. Make a note of the orientation. See these chamfered edges where on the bottom side, and the highly polished side has to mate with the other polished side of the other piece of ceramic. So that tells you the direction that goes. You've got another spacer piece that goes on. This needs a bit of a clean up. Then the whole shaft will also push out. Got a little washer here as well to take care of here. Don't lose that. These rubber seals, these rubber O-rings, might be a little bit calcified up. Make sure they protrude above the shaft and you haven't got loads of calcium around there. If you have, then clean it up. So there's a bit on here, you can see it all coming off as I scrape it and clean it off. Too much calcium around here not only makes it stiff to turn, but it might affect the sealing down the shaft as well. So as I say, I'm just really showing how I disassembled this. I've already given it a good clean. One of the problems was there was quite a lot of corrosion around the inner side of this metal casing. So I gave that a good scratch off with a screwdriver, cleared out these slotted bits at the side. There's one there and one there. Those slotted bits are where this slightly raised edge of the bottom piece of ceramic goes in, and if that's not smoothly fitting, then this ceramic piece won't be able to push properly against the other ceramic piece and turn the tap off and on. So reassembling, again, this has already been cleaned up. Make sure the two parts go in properly. Look at this slot, that's designed to go into that slot. Roughly align it and then just wiggly tap a couple of times, wiggle the shaft to make sure that you get this piece of ceramic appearing and disappearing in that window. Then we have our ceramic here. Again, as I say, the shiny face facing down into the valve. These edges go into these slots. It's probably best to push the shaft out of it. So there we go. Then it can lie flat on the other half. Then you can push the whole lot down together. Then you've got this neoprene or silicone seal. Probably worth popping that off. See if there's any corrosion underneath. This one's okay. Wipe off any calcium around it. Make sure it goes back into its recess. That seals against the bottom ceramic, stops the water going around the edge. Then you've got a top piece of silicone seal. Again, clean this off. And this fat piece of seal goes down against the copper. Just sort of pushes down into it a little bit. And then we can put our clip back on. So, piece of plastic, doesn't really matter which way around this goes. You might want to count the number of splines on here just to check against a new part if you are ordering a new part, and check all the dimensions. The ceramic inserts for sale on eBay will give you all the dimensions of the part to match up against your old part. Let's just wipe off a bit of corrosion here as well. Okay, not much else wrong with that. Pop the top on, pop the screw back on. Being lazy here, I should use a Phillips screwdriver really, but just using a small flat bladed one, which actually does a good enough job. Right, so without any pressure on there, it should very smoothly open and close. But if you push down on the table, then you should find the pressure on the tap is more, because that is pushing on the copper washer, which is pushing on the ceramic plate. It should push the two together to give you a good seal when the tap opens and closes. So let's reinsert that and now check whether our tap is leaking or not. And just before we insert the valve, we'll just check whether we've got any nasty bits of corrosion down our hole. There's a little bit on the surface there. See those marks there? So we'll just scratch off any calcium deposits or other sorts of corrosion before we insert it. Don't want to damage the surface with scratches so that it ends up leaking. So you don't want calcium there either. Same for that raised edge as well. There's a few markings on there. Let's finish off that and then we'll insert it. Tighten up, just check the stiffness of the shaft. You don't want it super smooth, so indicating it's not being pushed on enough, but don't want it so tight that it's really stiff. There's a moderate little bit of resistance there, I think. Hopefully that'll be about right then. Next, put your cap back on, make sure the tap's in the off position. If you order a spare insert, of course, there's a difference between the left and right, because one's clockwise and one's anti-clockwise to close. This one is anti-clockwise to close, clockwise to open. And then push all the way home, quite firmly. There we go. And that's now nicely aligned. Water's back on. And now the dripping of the tap has stopped. That's how I fix mine. Good luck with yours. Thanks for watching.